Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
But I'm looking forward to hearing her, everyone from Malibu, KL. So just like 220-ish.
I'll do whatever I can do. I'll do my best. He was tall. Okay, there we go. Still is tall. But hi, everyone. I'm Kay. I want to thank Jeremy for asking me to be here, and I want to thank Ben. That was just fabulous. Thank you so much. Just Alateens are wonderful, and so you know, at my home meeting, we welcome Alateens transitioning into Alanon. I want to thank the woman who made me this beautiful lei. I'm having a hot flash, and it's a little hard for me to be wearing it right now because it's like wearing a muffler, which leads me to the second thank you, these fans. So, woo! Thank you for these. Recovery in paradise. Recovery is paradise. To me, it really is. I always start the same way. I want to apologize. There's several people here who've heard me speak before. I hope I don't bore you, but I'm so glad you're here anyway. Several of my sponsees showed up and surprised me, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. Okay, here we go. I always start basically the same way. My original sponsor, Marjorie, who many of you knew, used to start by saying, "I'm here because I love an alcoholic." I have to start by saying I wish it was only one. The first time I heard her say that, I remember thinking, she's so lucky. She only has one alcoholic. When I originally came in Alanon, I would hear people, you know, I'm behind the podium, I'm getting rid of my belt. Okay. There we go. I am feeling much better. Next, it'll be the heels. That's as far as I will go, though. People talked about their qualifier, and I remember thinking, God, you know, I have so many qualifiers. I mean, everyone I knew. Ben had said that he, used to look at that the whole world was an alcoholic. My whole world were alcoholics. Everyone I knew, all my friends, my father, you know, everyone I knew either was an alcoholic or a drug addict. So that was my whole world. And I thought, God, I have so many qualifiers in this program. How am I ever going to straighten this out? And after I'd been in Alanon for a while, I realized that I only had one qualifier, and that was me. And to this day, I refer to myself as my qualifier in this program because it was never, ever about what anybody else did or did not do. It was always about how I reacted to it, always. So unfortunately, that put the focus on me. Now, it took me a couple years before I got to that, so I had my first couple of years in Alanon pointing the finger at other people. But then, unfortunately, when I came to that realization, I had to look at myself. I'll tell you a little bit about my past. My father drank. I prefer not to refer to him as an alcoholic because I believe it's a self-diagnosed disease, and he never said that he had it. I joke because his reasoning for thinking he was not an alcoholic was because he didn't drink until the sun went down. And I joke about this too. I remember speaking once on Daylight Savings Day and realizing that was probably my father's worst day of the year. It represented, like 3 or 4 months of hell coming up. But when he drank, his personality changed, and Ben was referring to this as well. And before I forget, too, I want to thank all the speakers that are going to be here today, but I especially want to thank, the two speakers last night, because I heard them both, and I love them both. I know them both, and it was an honor for me to hear them, so I did not want to forget to thank you both. Thank you, Sandy and Jean. My father didn't drink until the sun went down, until that one day he was arrested at noon, and which was only that one time that he drank. And he got put in jail, and what I remember most about that was my mother, and it was a Friday, it was before ATMs and all that stuff, and I remember my mother being surprisingly not bothered by the fact that he was going to be in jail for a weekend. And I was fretting. I was worried, oh my God, how do we get him out? What do we do? And ultimately he came out, but one thing led to another. His relationship with me, I'm an only child, and his relationship with me, and let me tell you this about my dad. My dad did not drink at me or my mom or anybody else on the planet. My dad drank because he was in an insurmountable amount of pain that I couldn't even begin to comprehend. I still today cannot comprehend it, but as a child, I certainly had no way of understanding it. My dad loved me very, very much, but he had a broken heart. And the only way he could not feel the pain from that broken heart was to drink, and when he drank, his personality changed and he got violent. And my parents used to send me, again, Ben I so related to your story because of my relationship with my father and the anger that I had because I didn't understand the personality change. It was so difficult for me. But my parents would send me to other people's houses because we could not get along, and I would go to my friend Amy's house. She had the perfect family, the perfect mother and father, and they all sat around the table and chatted and, what they had done during the day. And I felt so out of place with my little suitcase there, and I thought they knew that I was there because I was a bad girl. I couldn't be with my father. And they never said a word about it. I remember so clearly sitting around the table with them and finally on the third or fourth day saying to the mother, you don't have to do this anymore. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, this everyone sitting at the dinner table together thing, because we didn't do that in my house. We ate in 3 different places in the house at 3 different times. And she said, sweetie, we do this every day. And that's when I realized that my home was different than Amy's home. It wasn't until I came to Alanon that I realized that my home was the same as everybody else's in Al-Anon's home. Sandy referred to this last night, and as did Jean, the effects of alcoholism on the family, and my family was definitely affected. So I went out into the world and I couldn't fix my father. I felt horrible. I couldn't help him. I couldn't make him feel happy. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. We did have an incident once where we called the police. I was very young, and there was some violence, and the police were called. And I went next door, and I was telling the next door neighbors. I banged on the door, and I said, "Please, you got to call the police. My father's, having a." He's very violent right now. My mother's in there. I'm afraid he's going to kill her. Please, 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 and they called the police. But what I had done was I'd broken the cardinal rule. I told the secret of the family, and I don't know if any of you have been in that situation, but that horrible secret, and now I've told. And I thought, boy, going back into that house is going to be so difficult. The cops did come. My father happened to know them. And, everyone loved my dad. My dad was the kind of alcoholic that everybody loved. He was a fabulous man, would give you the shirt off his back. But when he drank, his personality changed, and he almost always drank in the house. So the only 2 people that ever saw that personality change were my mother and myself. And so when I said what he was doing to Henry and Elizabeth next door, they couldn't believe it because they did not know that side of my father. So the police came, they laughed, joked. I was a silly little girl, they laughed, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back into this house. How am I going to deal with this? And we never mentioned it. It was never mentioned again, ever. I didn't even bring it up till 5-6 years in program, and I was talking about it with a girlfriend of mine, and she said, have you mentioned this to your sponsor? And I said, no. And she said, I think you should. You know, I was so ashamed and embarrassed. I felt so completely responsible for my father's drinking. I went out into the world and started collecting alcoholics and drug addicts. Wherever they were, I would be. You know, I loved them. Now I do. I still love them, but now I want them in recovery. But I went out and I had so many of them. You know, I was raised. This is my hood. I was raised in Van Nuys. You know, this is where I'm from, and went to Grant High School, and you know, the age I am, it was an age of experimentation and drugs and drinking, and everybody was getting loaded and getting drunk. But I was the designated driver because I wanted to be in control, you know, right from the get-go. And I was the one the parents loved because I was so responsible and all this. And my best friend, her name was Robin, and God, I loved her. I always have to share about her. It's so important. She was one of those alcoholics that was so much fun, always, you know, getting into trouble, kept me very busy, but just a party girl, and she was just so much fun to be around. And she ultimately moved on to heroin, and you know, it's a bad drug. And she called me one day, and I was working a lot, and I had a home, and I had a kitchen, and I had, you know, silverware and couches and beds, and I didn't have cinder blocks for bookcases. I had actual bookcases, and, you know, I had a home, you know, and because I wanted all of my alcoholic drug addict friends to have a home, and I cooked for everybody. I joke, you know, I love to cook, they love to eat for free, and so everybody came over all the time to my house, and you know, I was always telling them what they needed to do to get their lives together. And and Robin, you know, called me one day and said, I really, you know, I have a problem. And she said, I really need to kick. Can I come over and will you help me? Now that phrase, I need help, to me, is the same as you've just won the lottery. It just, or I need you. Any variation of the need, I need, is just, you know, makes me feel so important and so good, you know. And it also takes my mind off of all the things that I didn't know how to do and all the things I couldn't fix for my father. So I was determined to go out into the world, and I was going to save some drug addict, alcoholic, come hell or high water. Well, I had one now. I had Robin. So I'm going to fix her. I punished her a little bit before she, you know, I agreed to let her come in. You know, I made her ask me about 6 times. I don't know if you've ever done. Well, Jean referred to this last night, how badly, you know, sometimes we behave. You know, my behavior just sucked, you know. But she needed me, so I had the leeway. And I had some rules, and, you know, this is one of my favorite parts when I share is how many people can identify with this. I had 3 rules. This is a practicing heroin addict alcoholic. Practicing heroin addict alcoholic. The first rule was no lying. And I said it, you know, we get so, you know, so righteous. I would get so righteous. No lying. And she said, okay. The second rule was no drugs or alcohol in the house. And she said, okay. See, you are all on board. Okay. Let's do this together. The third rule was you come home every single night. And she said, and I said to her, in return for those 3 so simple rules, what I will do for you is, you can stay with me. I'll make you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'll take your dry cleaning in. I'll mow the lawn. I'll trim the hedges. I'll get your car fixed. I'll do all the housework. I'll iron your clothes. I'm going to find you a good job. I'm going to start a bank account and a savings account for you so ultimately you can get your own apartment. How does that sound? And she said, so she agreed. So off I went. And you know, I did every single thing I said I would do. And you know what she did? She got high. How could she have gotten high? How could she have why would she choose to go get high? I was doing everything for her. There was no reason to get loaded. So she went out, she got high, she broke the rules. And I got really pissed. I don't know if any of you have done that, set up some rules. They get broken, you get a little pissed. I got so pissed. I was not into drama at the time. I personally carried her entire bedroom set out of her bedroom, down the walkway, not getting it dirty, and threw it into the middle of the street. In the daylight, so everyone could see. Whining and moaning the whole time. Oh, if you only knew what she had done to me. And she came screeching up, and said, please, please, please help me, and don't do this, don't do this. And I said, you broke the rules. You don't get another chance. I did everything I said, that arrogant, smug, self-righteous, and dominating attitude. God, how unappealing. And what a terrible personality, character defect. And so anyway, she begged me, and I said no. I didn't just say no, I said no. No, no way. But that night, she killed herself. And the reason I talk about this, and I talk about it every single time, is because without recovery, alcoholism and drug addiction ends in insanity or death or prison. And in her case, it ended in death. And what's so important to remember about this, for me, I was so arrogant that I believed I blamed myself. I believed I had the power of life and death over another human being. That my actions were so important, so invaluable in the life of another human being, that if I didn't do the right thing, they would die. People who use drugs and alcohol excessively may die. It can happen. It's just what can happen. I wish she hadn't died. I would love to have her around here. I would love to still be friends with her, but that is not the route that she took. Well, now, two alcoholics that I have not been able to save. So I moved to Hollywood.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.